All right, what's going on, everybody? So this is my top 10 most anticipated games for 2019. Now, keep in mind, this is subject to change because there are several games that most likely will come out in 2019, but they don't have an actual release date yet. So, more announcements are going to happen. Also, pretty much all the games on my list except one are pretty much confirmed to come out in 2019 or very likely to come out in 2019. So if you don't see a game on my list that you expected me to have, it's either the game might have just not made the top 10, even though I am looking forward to it, or I'm actually not looking forward to the game at all, or there is the small chance that I might have forgotten a few titles when I'm considering my top 10, or, the game is probably just not coming out in 2019. But anyway, let's get to the list. So coming in at number 10, I have Control. Yeah, Control, made by Remedy Entertainment, which is pretty much just Quantic Break 2, because I like Quantic Break. I like the gameplay. I thought the game had a lot of potential that wasn't exactly reached, and I don't think a lot of things in the game were executed well. The game just felt underdeveloped. And when I seen Control, I believe it premiered at E3, I became very excited because I feel like this is just a vastly, I think it's going to be a vastly improved Quantic Break, because I think Remedy is going to take everything they learned from making that game and everything they did wrong and everything they did well, and that's going to turn this project into a much better game. I mean, that kind of sucks for Microsoft because they got the raw end of the deal. Quantic Break is essentially just like an experiment or like an early draft project prototype, and I feel like Control is going to be the final draft or just the better version of the game. So yeah, I just really like the gameplay of Control. It looks like it's gonna be a decent story, interesting plot. So yeah, Control is number 10. Number 9 is Code Vein. So everybody knows I love my Souls games. This game they've been silent on this project for a while since it was delayed. It was supposed to come out like the end of this year, but it got delayed into 2019. And since then, we didn't hear anything about it at all, which I'm not worried about, because that, to me, that just means, they've gone on radio silence to put all their effort into developing the game, because it did seem rough around the edges a little bit. But everybody knows I love my Souls type games. Looks like it has some decent RPG elements. It has some good visuals. Y'all know I love me a challenge. I'm a masochist and everything like that. I think the presentation needed to be cleaned up a little bit, which I'm sure they're doing. This is a game most of these games I would say on my list, I would say most of them are multi-plats, and most of them I will be buying on PC, and even the early versions of this game did seem to be running pretty well. And this seems to be, because there's so many Souls games out there, you can't make your game a clone. So they seem to be adding their own type of flavor or differentiation in gameplay design to make it stand out and make it a little bit different from the rest of the games in this genre. So yeah, I look forward to Code Vein. Code Vein is number 9. So number 8 is Nioh 2, and I went back and forth with my decision for even putting Nioh 2 on my list at all, only because I played so much of Nioh that I got burnt out of it. I beat the game, of course, but I think I put like 85 hours in Nioh, because I did like all the side quests, I did all the unnecessary things in that game, that I became so burnt out. And even though I looked forward to Nioh 2, the thought of playing that game still feels like a chore in my mind, because I burnt myself out of by doing all the unnecessary things in Nioh, and I didn't pace myself well. But when I really thought about it, no, I'm definitely excited for this game. Another Souls type game, but played a little bit more like a hack and slash, because it had all these different combos and variations with the weapons, and it made sense that the game played like, almost like a fighter or a hack and slash with all these different moves and combos, because it was made by Team Ninja. So of course all of that made sense. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Nioh 2. I think it was Nioh was originally a PlayStation exclusive. It came to Xbox and PC. I think this one is just coming to all platforms initially. So I'll be buying it on PC if it's on PC at launch, because even though I enjoyed it on PlayStation 4, they had the different modes, the visual mode and the performance mode, and I think the visual mode ran at like 720p if I remember right. It was pretty low. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play this on PC so I can get the highest settings possible. So yeah, Nioh is number 8 for me. Number 7 is Gears 5. So I really enjoyed Gears 4. I had a lot of fun with it. And as far as like the campaign and the story goes, I want to see if they can up the ante a little bit, because I think that's what Microsoft needs is, for one of their games to prove that they can have a really engrossing story, a really, memorable single player experience. Because, Gears 4 single player wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything great, anything to write home about. And, I think this single player does need to impress, and I want to see if they can, like I said, up the ante a little bit, go a little bit deeper in terms of the story, with this second trilogy of the Gears franchise. I want to see who they can take it. We were playing as JD in 4, and now we're playing as Kate, and it makes sense if you played 4 and beat the story. It makes sense story wise for you to play as her in 5. And I don't feel like they fleshed out the new characters enough in 4. And okay, that may be a little bit difficult to do in one game, but I hope they do a lot more of that in 5. We need to know a lot more about these characters. They gotta, tell a better narrative, and build the lore a little bit more in this game, in the world of these new protagonists. And I had a lot of fun with the multiplayer. I'm honestly looking forward more of the multiplayer, because that's a game where we had a lot of fun in this community with all the people I play multiplayer games with, in Discord and everything like that. And there's been a severe lack of multiplayer games this generation that I've liked, at least, and that I've had fun with. So Gears is honestly probably is one of the few multiplayer games on my list. I think there's only like 3 multiplayer games on my list. So, it's slim pickings this generation in comparison to the last generation as far as, great multiplayer experiences. So Gears is number 7. Number 6 is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. So initially when Sekiro was first revealed, I wasn't impressed with it, because I'm like, I don't feel like they showed enough. Everybody was blown. Yeah, we know it's From Software is making it, and I trust them as a developer and everything like that, because they make a lot of the games that I like. But I just didn't feel like enough was shown, and it was like this really quick sizzle reel with a lot of cuts in it. I'm like, I didn't really get to see enough gameplay. But once we saw some actual people playing the game and it wasn't all these cuts, I was like, okay, this looks good. It's gonna have the difficulty, it's gonna have the great bosses and the great boss design, the great level design. Visuals look good. We know From Software is trying to depart from the Souls styling of what we're used to a little bit. They wanted to get away from that a little bit. They were tired of making the same thing. So Sekiro looks really fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. So it's number 6. Number 5 is Rage 2. Now, listen, let me tell you something. I think Rage 2 is going to blow a lot of people's minds. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at how amazing and how praised I think this game is going to be. Because I'm one of the people who always said Rage, the original Rage wasn't a terrible game. I just think that game got a bad rap. Was it amazing? No. There was a lot of faults in it. But I think I always felt like this game had great potential, and there was no reason, I saw no reason a game like Rage should not get a sequel. I think any game, any original game that shows you it did several things well, I think it only makes sense for you to give that game a sequel, because then it's clear, it's very clear what they did wrong. So if they get a chance to make a sequel, they can correct all those things, which is what most games do. Most of the time, the best installment in a franchise is usually the second game. Because the first one, it's you can look at it as like a prototype. You put it out there, the consumer tells you what they like, what you didn't like, you make those improvements, and then the second game usually ends up being perfect, and then the third game they change too much and f everything up. So I don't know, why people were, saying it. Nobody was asking for this. I mean, listen, I was asking for it. I think Rage 2, the gameplay speaks for itself. I think it looks awesome. And I don't praise just any first-person shooter. Everybody knows that. I heavily prefer third-person games in general, third-person shooters. But I just love how smooth it looks. It looks fun, crazy. They've definitely expanded, the universe in Rage. And yeah, I just really look forward to it. Made by Avalanche Games, so they're putting their little wackiness to it, which I think it needs. It needs a little lighter touch than the darker tone that was in 1. It needs to be a little bit more fun. So yeah, Rage 2 is number 5. Number 4 is Anthem. So number 4 is Anthem, not because I got to play the alpha, which of course I can't necessarily speak on any deep details, but this isn't just wishful thinking and hoping that the game is good. I played it. Okay, so it probably wouldn't be at number 4 if I didn't play it. If I didn't play it, it would have probably been like somewhere like maybe number 8. But I like what I played. I think it's a lot of fun. I think EA is going to be receptive to a lot of criticism and what people want from this game. I think this is a game they're going to support for many years. I played it, like I said, I don't think it's anything like Destiny. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's anything like Destiny. I think people are making that wrong comparison. I understand the comparison, but I think they're trying to do with Anthem the same thing that Activision did with Destiny, but as far as gameplay goes, no, this game is not anything like Destiny. It just feels so smooth. The animations, the way the game plays, it's responsive. And listen, I know a lot of people were, the things we saw at E3, we were like, oh, it's vertical cuts. The game is not going to look like that. It's not going to move like that. It looks like that and it moves like that. I could tell you that right now. Unless they've, unless they've tricked us in the alpha and the final version doesn't look like that or play like that, which is entirely possible, but unlikely. I have all faith in this game. Like I said, I enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's going to be, it's going to focus on co-op experiences, even though I'm not the biggest fan of co-op. And I'm a little disappointed it's not going to have PvP, but hopefully they add that in the future. So Anthem is number 4. Number 3 is Resident Evil 2. I mean, if you're not buying Resident Evil 2 in January, I don't know what you're doing. The game looks amazing. This is a true remake, through and through. Capcom doing a thing. There was a time where Capcom was seemingly in trouble financially, and they weren't putting out the games that the consumers wanted, and they weren't in the best the best graces. But now, even though typically they're balanced right now, they're creating new experiences while remaking a lot of their old experiences. So I'm not mad at them for that. People are buying it. People want it. They're not half-assing their remakes or their projects. They're really rebuilding them from the ground up. So I respect it. And I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. Resident Evil 2 looks great. So, I mean, you don't really have to explain why Resident Evil, 3, Resident Evil 2 is number 3. I mean, they're probably already working on Resident Evil 3 remake, and, rumors are even Dino Crisis, and we know we're going to get a new Onimusha. So, yeah. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 looks just visually beautiful. Gameplay looks fun. That's a classic game. It's a favorite by most people. So yeah, Resident Evil 2 is number 3. Number 2 is Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Everybody knows how big of a fan I am of Crash Team Racing. I have been calling for this remake forever, for years. It's, to me, the greatest kart racer ever made. The only thing I will, like, you know, debate you with is Diddy Kong Racing, right? And it's because Crash Team Racing is really just Diddy Kong Racing with PlayStation characters, and Diddy Kong Racing is, you know, you could argue is the best kart racer ever. So I'm not mad at that. So, but they did it right, and you know, I just love the game. I love the driving mechanics, the you know, the tracks, the adventure mode was just so good. The you know, the drifting, the characters. I just love everything about that game. I must 100%ed that game so many times when I was a kid. So, and I can't wait to play people online. I think that's the thing I'm looking forward to most. I just hope it feels like how it did all those years ago. So Crash Team Racing is number 2. Number 1 is The Last of Us 2. And I know the speculation of if this game is even coming out next year. I'm gonna go ahead and believe, you know, put positivity up in the universe, in the atmosphere, and believe this game is coming out 2019. I believe if Naughty Dog grinds it out, they can get this game out by September. That studio's huge. They have all the resources, all the personnel. They can get anything from Sony they need. So if they need to go on like a real hiring spree real quick to meet the deadline for this game, even though Sony's not going to rush them, I'm sure they're not going to put out a product unless it's ready. I think they can do it. I think this game can absolutely come out in 2019. If it's not, then it comes out spring 2020. But I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to believe for right now it's going to come out this year. But I'm still like shaky about that because, you know, I still feel like we haven't gotten enough gameplay. If we don't get like a good amount of gameplay halfway through 2019, it's definitely not coming out this year. Because, you know, we still haven't really seen much infected gameplay. We still haven't seen the multiplayer. You know, all these things need to be finished well ahead of time. They probably, honestly, well, they don't need to put out a beta for the multiplayer. They didn't last time, but might be a good idea. But yeah, that gameplay we saw at E3, where we finally saw some real gameplay with Ellie and just how advanced this game looks. Yeah. And even though I criticize the original Last of Us, I always say Last of Us is, to me, Last of Us is not a masterpiece. I always said this game lacks things that I believe when the sequel comes out, they will improve on, and the sequel will be a masterpiece. That's what I always said. Every time I beat Last of Us, I'm like, this game is not a masterpiece, but it is absolutely guaranteed that the sequel will be. We know the story is going to be great. You know, Naughty Dog has amazing writers. They have a way of tying things together and, you know, doing things you don't expect and creating these really great characters and just memorable characters. The gameplay is going to be solid. They pay attention to a lot of detail, and they always look how they can advance game design. The visuals, the game is going to run at 30 frames, which is probably going to be the worst thing about it. Resolution, I don't know, probably above 1440, something in the middle, you know, 1800 checkerboard, something like that. But it's going to visually look stunning. And I don't know of anything. It's probably, listen, I'll even go right now to say that Last of Us might win Game of the Year if it comes out 2019. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now that could absolutely compete with Last of Us for 2019, but it's possible because, like I said, I only got a few games in my head right now, and you know, more games could be announced. So yeah, Last of Us is number 1. Honorable mention, I'm going to give 2 honorable mentions. Days Gone didn't make my list because even though I'm looking forward to it, it still doesn't like provoke a lot of excitement for me. It's a day 1 for me, but Days Gone just didn't provoke too much excitement for me. And also Devil May Cry is an honorable mention. It kind of was on my list, but I had to choose between like pretty much games like Sekiro and Nioh 2 and Code Vein knocked Devil May Cry off the list pretty much, you know, which is understandable and respectable. So yeah, those are 2 honorable mentions. There's Might be a few more, but I'm gonna keep it at that. So yeah, those are my top 10 most anticipated games for 2019. Let me know y'all list in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can know anytime I go live. And yeah, appreciate y'all support watching the video. Make sure you hit the like button like I said. Follow me on Twitter and let me know what y'all think. I'm out of here. Peace.